How you do, sir? How are you, sir?
Get up, Calvin.
Pardon?
Don't get up.
No,
You stretching?
no.
You have to get up from there.
You see me struggling to get up?
Like this, like
Yeah, I was
falling asleep.
Yes. He's sitting still.
I see you.
Yeah.
I see you.
But I need to.
Yes, sir. How much you need?
I don't know, I don't think you, I don't know how much you have. I was gonna say, I don't think you have enough. But I don't know how much you have. What I was gonna.
Depends on how long the first half is.
Yeah, I haven't met you. I wanted to see what there was planned at Rankin. What I wanted to do is.
How are you? How are you?
When it was
You guys look great. This is neat. How do you put it all together?
Saturday, I was gonna try to put jazz over here.
Yeah.
Okay, so we had Friday or something. So we have
Okay, yeah,
2 days
perfect,
off.
awesome. I have your
And
number
then
now,
we
so
just,
I'll text you and we'll
look
coordinate
at
coffee or
what
something.
we need, what, all the things we need.
But I looked
was
before I
looking
came here,
over
and it's not looking good.
It's all
This is not August.
Yeah.
There was like a house and I was like, I probably should
So,
turn it.
just not
I have one of those ones you pull from the room, so during this time of year I have it in the breeze, so I don't bring it in the house. I'm like, I just put it away, I feel like I gotta pull it out.
figure out the day. The group that said that was
Till
gonna.
October?
No, Marjorie. Remember?
Oh.
It was Chris and Renee and Michael, and we were using Michael Place as a,
Which is froze too. Yeah.
then they have nothing. And I don't know.
Yeah, and that's just like all the.
Hey, send out letters. I'm trying to step back and not leave.
Yeah, I've noticed that in the produce now, and you can see some of it's got freeze or like frozen, and it's like it had been through some trauma.
Yeah, but that's not part of the.
That cabbage was a hard to find, hard, good find.
They
I
decided
didn't find good cabbage, I found cabbage like running around the road. Everywhere.
We are here. And I was saying,
But it all looked like it had been stressed out.
and so it's.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know. I ended up
Or
finding
they're
an
pulling it
organic one.
because they have to, and it's not growing right.
No, it's not.
And then.
When the weather goes crazy, your produce
And I
does
was
too.
looking.
That's what the problem is with people.
So I said, oh, let's take the day. And see
Oh.
what we can do.
Okay.
Or. And my situation.
We need to diversify how we
Or
grow.
squeeze. I
So we
got the
have
band.
cycles.
And I got the band.
Well, I tried growing my own food and I was not very good at it. And then I was so
Oh, yeah.
picky about
Renee.
anything that was brown or bruised. Or if it looked like a bug had seen it.
No,
I was like, I'm not touching that.
He's calm.
Yeah.
And-
I would never be satisfied. I gave that up.
We come, because we doing something, like first of the one who, pain sense of pain. We got, their artwork is in the coffee shop there. And then.
I know, I feel like by the time
Yeah, but she got the whole, what it is a push artist.
Oh, no, that's.
So, you know, close herself as well. They close themselves.
That's a tough one, cause I don't think that's.
Oh, that's what I'm reading now.
Or you don't have to be a artist. It's hard. There's none there. That's why I said, let's be art. And you don't have to be an artist. You don't have to be an artist to be art. You know,
He's buying coffee here next week, you going?
pardon me?
He's buying coffee next week, you going?
Oh, that's right, next Tuesday. I drink the.
Is there any other time?
I can't be there, I'm gonna be in Pomona. So you all need to ask the right question.
Well, help me. Tell us what they ask, and, you know, write us, we're the guys, write it down for us, you know.
What I do. But no, artists, yeah, somebody.
Big room, how you doing? me. I'm on your schedule.
No, you're not. Man, your schedule is.
It's crazy, but so is yours. That's why you don't go to sleep until 3 in the morning. But I know we're in just going back and forth, and I just realized that we weren't saying red. Working on that.
Say, like Saturday. I was gonna do jazz at voice but I wanted to doing that.
You can call me anytime.
But yes,
Never to be. You want to your dog?
that's the most important part.
That's the most important part. Yeah. I'll be out of here quick because I got my grandson here, and it's his last day, so
Oh, and
just scoot out of here because they forced me to be here. You gotta do what you gotta do. I know. It's all good. But oh yeah. I'd be like you when I grow up. How you doing? My name is Robert. Nice to meet you, Robert. This your daughter? Oh, okay. You've been showing up a lot. 20 years, 30 years. I can take you in the shower or whatever. You're gonna like it through it. And it's not even dry. Very nice to meet you guys. How was your, did you eat that birthday cake or not? You just go like that is to the cats. Nice seeing you, John. Take care. Brenda, how are you? My friend. I'm good. Thank you. You always look good, Brenda. I like your Lenny Grove shirt. I beat you. What? I got Spider-Man's arm. Oh, this is for St. Patty's Day? I know I should have some St. Patty's. No. I have no rings. I have no ring. You know why?
I know I didn't either, so I'm gonna come back in.
My wife is. So,
Moms are good for that.
they are. So I got it. I can see that. That cost me $100,000. Plus whatever I would ship it out or not.
Welcome to the City of Lemon Grove's regular city council meeting. I would like to remind everybody to silence your cell phones. City clerk, will you please call the roll of the city council members to go on record as in attendance?
Councilmember Smith. Present. Councilmember Altamirano.
Here.
Councilmember Mendoza.
Here.
Sorry. Mayor Pro Tem Meridia.
Here.
Mayor Snow.
Here.
Mayor Snow, we have a quorum of the city council.
So it appears the wee leprechauns have maligned our system here. And so we are struggling with electronics and recording. So while we're taking meeting minutes today, we have Joelle who's taking copious notes, who will be recording this meeting. We are hoping that the issues will resolve. But as we go to changes to the agenda, one of the items that were up for today was the appeal. So we'll discuss that after we do the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So item number 2 was a public hearing to consider an appeal, AA 2-500-001 of the Community Development Manager's decision to deny minor use permit, MUP-250-001, a request for early separation findings for a cannabis dispensary at 8280 Broadway in the heavy commercial zone, APN 499-200-22-00. I suggest that we, go ahead.
Let me, can I make an announcement?
Yes, I'll turn the time over to the city attorney to discuss further.
Thank you. So to describe what's going on is we're having technical difficulties and our microphones are not working. We can't record the hearing, the public hearing, because the microphones are not working. And so we don't want to do anything that would mess with the record for the appeal hearing. So I'm gonna now hand it over to the mayor to go talk about it.
that clarification. So because of that, we have a couple of options that we could do. We could either take this agenda item at the end of the calendar today, or we can continue this agenda item to the first meeting in April on April 7th. I will invite the appellant to come up and state their preference on which they would prefer to do.
Good evening, council, panel, doesn't work. Good
Yeah,
evening,
just loud
council
voice,
and the
yeah.
mayor. I prefer April, because we obviously are gonna need to record this for the administrative record. And hopefully at that time, we also will have some of the public record requests.
Wonderful. Appreciate your thoughts. Thank you. So with that, I would like to go ahead and continue the hearing. I am opening the public hearing on item number 2. At this time, we will go ahead and continue the hearing until April 7th at 6 p.m. Here in this council chambers. And do I need to vote on it?
Yes, your motion and a second.
Okay, can I get a motion on that?
Continue the public hearing to April 7th.
The motion was made by Councilmember Altamirano with a second by Councilmember Mendoza. I'm not going to make the roll to go on the record. Councilmember Smith. Aye. Councilmember Altamirano.
Aye.
Councilmember Mendoza.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Heredia.
Aye.
Mayor Snow.
Aye.
The motion carries on a vote of 5-0.
Thank you. Appreciate it and apologize for the inconvenience to the appellant. Before we proceed, I'm also going to change the order of the agenda to accommodate Mr. Badawi's presentation. We will hear reports to council item number 3 first, followed by the public hearing item number 2, and then proceed with the remainder of the agenda as published. Can I get a motion to approve the change in the order of the agenda? Oh. This is throwing me off my game. So first I need to close the public hearing, so now we. Oh,
Leave it open.
We leave it open until it's continued. What? Oh, I see. Okay, so I had misspoke. So we'll hear reports to council item number 3 first, and then proceed with the remainder of the agenda as published, with the exception of the public hearing item number 2, which has now been continued to the April 7th meeting. Can I get a motion to approve that change in the agenda, order of the agenda?
So moved. Change the order of the agenda.
Thank you. Second?
The motion was made by Mayor Pro Tem Heredia with a second by Councilmember Smith. I'm not going to make the roll to go on the record. Councilmember Mendoza.
Aye.
Councilmember Altamirano.
Aye.
Councilmember Smith. Aye. Mayor Pro Tem Heredia.
Aye.
Mayor Snow.
Aye.
The motion carries unanimously.
Are there any other changes to the agenda?
Mayor Snow, I have no further changes to the agenda.
Okay. Today we don't have any presentations, and next we'll move to general public comment. During the general public comment portion of this meeting, the public may express their concerns not pertaining to items on the agenda tonight. According to state law, the city council is not allowed to respond to any comments expressed by the public, but we will make sure you get responses to the questions you ask. If you need additional follow-up after today, please give us your contact information, your name and your phone number or your email address, and we'll make sure that staff reaches out to you. Each speaker will be given a maximum of 3 minutes. When speaking, please, are there lights working? Okay, so the lights will go on. We'll have a green light, a yellow light, to show your time is coming to a close, and then the red light means the next person's turn to discuss. Now, start with, Joe Smith. Here's your outside voice.
Good evening. I'm excited to share with all today. There's been about 10 people from Lemon Grove School District community staff that have been planning this event for the last 7 months. Multicultural Fair, Chess Tournament, and Family Day. If you like the bonfire, you came out to last week's Black History Empowerment Celebration, then you'll love the Multicultural Fair, Chess Tournament, and Family Day. We have something for everyone. It's going to be the largest that we've ever put on here in the city, and I think you'll be pleased at the expression of what Lemon Grove has to offer, the richness in our culture, in our community, and all of the cultural performances and traditional performances. It's really going to be a time. I invite you to come out as early as 10 a.m. where you'll see youth ballet Nordico dancers. 10:35, a special tribute to our servicemen and women and their families. 11, just from top to bottom in cultural performances. So I give to you, you guys are the first to receive the bingo cards and the program for 2026 as our personal invitation for you to come out and enjoy yourselves. And if you put your name and number down there, you might have the opportunity at a very cool raffle. Thank you guys.
Thank you. Next, we have Brenda Hammond.
Can you pass up this? I'm still writing. Can you pass me this?
Sure thing. Next, John L. Wood.
John Elwood, on the road. Raising Cane, where is it? You had to have it, car wash and a restaurant, all in one place. They eliminated a lawn workshop. And, every repair shop. Now, in order to have the lawnmower repair in Lemon Grove or in this area, you have to walk Spring Valley. That's a hell of a walk. Especially pushing the lawnmower, because of work. Now, the reason, I went out there and they said, oh, we can't give you parts. So now you have to run that either Alpha Home or whatever city you what the state route that is. And even that is a long walk. About 10 miles. But, you know, you guys can do it. I thought it was fun. I really tried. And in case you don't remember, there's a vacant building on the corner of Central and Federal. It's supposed to be a cannabis store. But it's been what, 4 years? Plus or minus. And it's a vacant building. You're not getting anything from it, except $2 a month to keep whatever it is valid, so they can still call it a cannabis shop to get around to it. I don't think they're going to get around to it because they're using the products. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wood. Next, we have, Victoria.
I was reviewing the written comments and I want to flag Jacqueline Clark's comments. What she said.
Speaking aloud.
Oh, yes. I was reading the, written comments that were submitted and I want to flag Jacqueline Clark's comment. I think it warrants, it really resonated for me and I asked the council attendants were lost in the conversation at the last session, really stuck with me, so that's my comment today.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Victoria. Brenda Hammond? Love your socks.
I didn't bring my old socks. Hi, I don't have to be politically correct. I don't want that to be funny. And believe me, I have been dropping the F-bomb for the past, 48 hours. And I'll tell you why, I'm a little sleepy, and I'll tell you why I'm a little sleepy. I was up most of the night. Not from stress, at least not mentally. Yes, I was sprayed with a research medication yesterday that I heard later from a doctor in the Mesa that it had crystal meth in it. Oh, I dropped the F-bomb. He observed me and said I should go get some more drugs for my crystal problem. I dropped the F-bomb again, asked him to both my sons. I'm asking that we stop being the playground for the county medical research. And please don't think I don't know what I'm not, please don't think I don't know what I'm talking about. If someone signs up for a program, that's different, but you just don't go around spraying people and giving people drugs that don't need it. Those of you that don't believe me and that laugh at everything I say and roll their eyes and make funny faces at everything I say, you know what? You. Because I know about this research, I was gonna be part of it, I was gonna be the one sitting there with a clipboard and watching people be put on meds to see how they react. I told Bob McCollum, Joe Drew, and Pete Peters, and, Manuel Lopez, I will not do this job because of creating people. This is not fun what it is. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Brenda. Our next speaker is Chris Williams.
Good evening, City Council and Mayor. Just wanna wish everybody a happy St. Patty's Day, celebrate it. Also would like to, just say that, I'm honored, to be a part of this community. Big shout out.
It's not funny.
And
You heard me, you laughed at me when I said I still have it in my system. It's not fucking funny. Shut up. Excuse me, ma'am? You laughed when I said it's still in my system. I said it's not funny. Just ignore me. Just ignore me.
I apologize, we'll restart your time.
Oh, no problem. It's okay. Hopefully Ms. Brenda is having a good holiday. I would like to say this, I stepped up because of one of the things that Mr. John Elwood, mentioned, is the vacant dispensary on, Federal. One of the things that, I would like to point out to the city council about what I believe is, preferential treatment, favoritism. I know that some people are tired of seeing me up here year after year after year, but I refuse to submit, have to be on the back of a t-shirt to get justice. I am asking for council to ask the appropriate questions and to look back at what has been done, because what has been done has not been fair, it has not been just, and it has not been legal. And that is what I am asking of council. It's simple, it's not hard, it's not a favor. I appreciate each and every single one of you, but it is something that you signed up to do. Transparency, accountability, fairness, and I know some people up here have represented MLK on their holidays and used it to, campaign. And what I will say is, if any slight injustice puts us change back, and I will continue. I will continue to show up until it's a fair shake, and once it's a fair shake, I continue to do what I do in this community. So I just ask that council does their job, support the community, support truth, support fact, ask the tough questions, the inconvenient truths, and I appreciate that. You guys have a great day and enjoy your holiday.
Thank you. Next speaker is Hilka Weston.
You know I'm kissing her.
Sorry, it's true. Still got that message. Hello, esteemed council members, it's nice to be here. I'm Elka, I am a local advocate throughout the county and throughout the state. You know, I was so disgusted with the behavior of two city council members walking out of the meeting. And I wanna read this to you so you understand that it's disgusting. While not considered standard or ideal parliamentary procedure, it is a tactic that occurs in San Diego County. Well, that's weird. When council members wish to protest action, show disagreements with the mayor, well, why not just stay here and listen? It's kind of embarrassing that you run out to 10 people, 12 people, instead of hearing out what is needed to be heard for the entire city of Lemon Grove. Or voice concerns about conflicts of interest while sitting there, which is why you didn't receive the Democratic Party endorsement, Seth. Such actions are generally viewed by critics as blatant and gratuitous, show of disrespect for public and colleagues, rather than a normal everyday occurrence. I was disgusted with that behavior. If you don't agree with the proposal that Allison is making, then say you don't agree and voice your opinions. Speak up. You have a voice. That is why you were elected. Not to go, I don't like it. I'm voting outside right now. That's childish. My father was elected, all of you. Dr. Weston did a lot for San Diego County and a lot for the state. And I was embarrassed for both of you. Terribly embarrassed. I mean, what child does that? If my son would have marched out of any classroom, he would have been held accountable. And my son never did. My own child at 5 was more mature than the two of you. And I think you owe the other city council members an apology. And you owe all the constituents. You could disagree with her. You could say I recuse myself. You could say it's the stupidest idea in the world. But stay in here and be blatantly respectful to your constituents. It was disgusting. That's not what I wanted to talk on with my open comment. My concern is the lack of respect of what's happening for Irma Espinoza, a woman who died under the policing agents of Lemon Grove. That's what I should be talking on. Not two elected, and well, one elected and one appointed individual that was trusted by all the constituents. Work with the people, work across the aisle, and if you don't know how to do it, call Marty Emerald and she'll teach you. And I'm sorry if I sound really upset, but it's because I am. This is a beautiful community. I was born and raised in San Diego. I spent all my time out here. And we need to work together, not apart. Thank you very much.
We need turtle back.
Manola Clark Manson is our next speaker.
So I don't like speaking to the microphone, but now I'm confused that I don't have a microphone. I wanna talk about something that really needs to be put into place for the future. One of the things that I'm finding with that stack, that enormous stack of public comment, is that if I wasn't here, I wouldn't see it. It doesn't get posted, it doesn't get summarized, it's nowhere. So if I'm not here, then I can't know what happens in public comment. The public comment is what the public is saying. Every other system that I have been involved in, they summarize the public comment and it's included in the minutes. I don't think our city clerk has the capacity to do that now. If he had an additional staff person, maybe. But there needs to be a way so the public can see all of what happens in this meeting, not just part of it. We already know we're supposed to be getting the audio visual, and that, when that happens, we'll get more, but the public comment is still missing. So if we could look, while we're looking at our budget, about an additional person or whatever is needed, I don't know what exactly is needed, for that, but I think the, city manager does and can figure that out. I respect his ability and his leadership, so that could be figured out, but we really need to be able to have all of what happens here with transparency so that people can make judgments about what they want to do.
Our final speaker is Thelma Martinez Monter.
My problem is, I live here in the Middle Grove, I have, 50 years living here, and, all the workers of the city are going cleaning around the Skyline, Angeles, Canton, everywhere on my street. My son came, like a month ago during the rain, and he went and buy some asphalt and sacks to cover the patch from the pothole. And, I don't think it's, something wrong, and the city of San Diego came over and just paid all whatever half belonged to them, and he left the other side. You know, I know that's, to cities, but, the thing is, what's the problem that you reach out, not you, but, you know, the workers or whoever's commanding them, they don't reach the work with them. You know, it's potholes right there, and they're terrible. And he also, also my problem is that, I drive at nighttime, several times. The skyline coming from the skyline, by the schools, the streets, I don't have sidewalks. Everybody has a garage in their homes, they just need to pile up the trash. Why don't they park the car right there, they're parked on the street. A lot of people are renting rooms. And they're having a rent, and the people are rent, and they're parking on the street. Right where the people walk, there's not able to people to walk around the sidewalk. I'm sorry for my English, I mean.
Está bien.
Okay, so that's my problem, by the school, Montreal Heights, the street they go down, just in the, you just have to check on the radar, just anywhere. Other option is, homeless, right there behind, green, what's it, green, restaurant?
Walgreens?
Yeah, Walgreens, yes, this, pothole homeless in the evening, there's a parking right there, there's so dangerous right there, they're smoking drugs, they're doing a lot of things, and there's a garbage right there. What happened to the city? The city's so beautiful, to let it go like that. You should invest, find out who the parents are, where those people belong to, and send it to them, or send them back where they came from, you know? There were a lot of them, they belong here in San Diego, from other states, and they call them out over here, and they're restoring the city. So that's my point, so, if you please.
Yeah.
Keep an eye on the street,
What'd you say?
I didn't understand. I think taxes. Like, you know, I'm not really doing it. So why don't we don't have to take care of those people that are on the streets? You know, thank you.
Thank you.
I'll now turn to, city council to see, or the city manager, city staff, and see if they have any responses to the issues that were presented today.
Sure, good evening, everyone. I'll start with Walgreens. So we are aware that there are homeless encampments behind the store, and we've been in touch with the property owner. They are responsible for cleaning up those encampments. The city went in, a number of months ago in partnership with our homeless service providers, and we cleared out those encampments and all the debris that were in back of the store. And so we are now working with the property owner to remedy the encampments now in the back of the store. So we've issued a citation, and we're gonna be continuing to work with them to try and get those cleaned up as quickly as possible. And then Ms. Manola.
Clark Manson.
Yes, how are you?
Thank you.
I did want to mention that, you mentioned the upgrade for the chamber AV system, so staff is working on, proposals that were submitted for that project, and we're moving forward with that, but as part of that, we are gonna be looking at a agenda management system online that would give us the ability to post minutes as part of the agenda packages. And not only minutes, but also the comments that were received from the public prior to the meeting. So we're looking at a software solution for that as we speak.
And then just, for the record, written public comment has been received for this general, public comment portion of the agenda. Copies of those letters have been distributed to the full council and are available as public review too.
Those comments that address item number 2 that have been continued will be available at the meeting where that item is heard. Appreciate that.
This concludes the general public comment portion of the agenda. Next we'll move to the consent calendar. Do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
I'll move of the consent calendar. I'll second it.
Moved by Councilmember Mendoza, seconded by Councilmember Rivia. I'm gonna move the roll, down the record. Councilmember Altamirano.
Aye.
Councilmember Mendoza.
Aye.
Councilmember Smith. Mayor Pro Tem Rivia.
Aye.
Mayor Smith.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, next we will move on the agenda. Item number 2 has been continued, and so now we will go to Mr. Badawi's presentation. This is item number 3. It's the annual comprehensive financial report for fiscal year ended June 30th, 2025. I'll turn the time over to Stacy Kay, our finance director, and Ahmed Badawi, the CPA and president of the Badawi and Associates, to introduce the item.
All right, well, good evening, Mayor, council members, staff, and everyone else in attendance. Tonight, like the mayor said, we are presenting the annual comprehensive financial report, also known by its acronym as the ACFR, for fiscal year ended June 30, 2025. The ACFR was issued on March 2nd, 2026. Badawi and Associates, CPAs, is the audit firm the city contracted to perform independent annual financial audit. Mr. Ahmed Badawi, a CPA and president of the audit firm, is here to make that presentation. And I'm turning it over to Mr. Badawi.
Good evening. Again, my name is Ahmed Badawi. I was the audit partner on the City of Lemon Grove audit. And today I present you the results of the fiscal year 2025 audit. And I'm actually going to be looking at my notes. Screens on my side. If we can go to maybe the following slide. And this is the agenda for today, but I'm going to give you a brief overview of our firm and the engagements being assigned to the city, what we're doing deliverables in the scope of our audit, areas we emphasize on during our audit process. Also the brief overview of the audit methodology, having continuing engagements, summary of the numbers in your financial statements, providing some of the required communications as the independent auditor, and also a brief overview of the new accounts. So if we can go to the next slide. Maybe one more. Okay, so this is just a snapshot of our firm. We are a firm that has about 25 years of experience. We're a highly specialized firm. We work mostly with municipal government. Within that, we work mostly with cities. We currently audit about 44 cities throughout California. We have about 30 employees, and so far we have 0 lawsuits, legal disciplinary actions against the firm. It's the only number that we like to keep low. All the other numbers we like them to go up. If you go to the next slide, this was the composition of our engagement team. I was the engagement partner. We always had a partner with the reviewers, the individuals in the background, reviewing my work, and the team was working to make sure that we achieve the standards. Also provide a secondary view of the financial statements. We have an IT specialist. His role is to evaluate the controls embedded in the city's IT system, also looking at site security, backup procedures, access control, and those types of activities. We had one senior professional staff also assigned to them. We can go on to the next slide. And one more, please. As far as our deliverables, so we will mainly engage to provide an opinion on the city's annual comprehensive financial report. The city is subject to what we call government audit standards, require us to issue a report on the financial reporting and on compliance. We perform and agree upon procedures on the appropriation limit, also known as the GAN limit. We prepare the annual financial transaction report for the city and the sanitation district and the lighting district. The annual financial transaction report is an electronic subject to the state controller's office that is due to be on January 31st, and we do that on behalf of the city. We also performed an ARPA examination for this year. So ARPA are the grant fund that it's been a while, I forgot the ARPA actually.
You have to raise to that.
Thank you. Because I used it so many times. But an examination report does focus on that grant and provided an opinion whether the city complies with those requirements or not. And then finally, we communicate with the governing body, which is what I'm doing today, and we also issue a letter summarizing that. We can go on to the next slide, please. And one more, please. Thank you.
Mr. Bottomley, can you just speak up a little? The air conditioner just kicked on and I'm barely hearing. Thank you.
Absolutely. So, just a brief overview of our audit methodology. The audit is done really throughout the year. It starts with planning early in the year, and then we go into what we call the interim or the risk assessment phase of the audit. This normally happens in the summer. We focus on evaluating the city's processes and the controls that are in place. Then we have the year-end phase. This normally occurs around October or so. This is focused more on validating the numbers, making sure that there are audit evidence to substantiate all the account balances. And then finally, the reporting phase is when we draft the financial statements and we finalize our audit remains. We can go on to the next slide. Thank you. So these are some of the risks that we identified during our audit. I always like to say that there are no risk-free audits. So every audit has some risks, but inherently in any audit. And the risks we identified in them and those are pretty standard. We see them in most of our audits. The first one is the risk of management overriding control. I do want to say that we have not become aware of any instance of management overriding control, but the risk is always there. Management is the one responsible for designing, implementing controls. They are responsible for monitoring them, and oftentimes they can be overriding. So we design our audit procedures to minimize that risk at such a level. We do that by making sure that we assign more experienced personnel to more complex areas of the audit, that we incorporate the element of predictability in the audit process, that we look at management work, test different entries prepared by management, new estimates prepared by management to make sure they're free of bias, evaluate our inquiries regarding fraud, and make sure that we incorporate them in our audit. If you can go on to the next slide, please. Two additional risks we identified. One of them is really required by auditing standards. We consider it to be an area of high risk, which is improper revenue recognition. The assumption is people like to have more revenue than less expenses. So we always assume that revenue recognition is an area of high risk. So it's not so easy for us to let it go. We rely heavily on confirmations with outside parties. So we send confirmations to the county, confirming all revenue submitted to the city. We send confirmations to the state, to granting agencies, asking them to confirm the account balances, and we reconcile those to the city's accounting records. Proprietary funds, we do a lot of analytical analysis, ratio analysis, and also additional testing. And then finally, the area of estimates. Estimates by nature have a high degree of uncertainties, and therefore we regarding our audit report and some of the numbers in the financial statements. Our audit report normally we start by saying the standards that we follow, those are the very accepted auditing standards and also government auditing standards. We have issued an unmodified opinion. An unmodified opinion in simple terms means opinion. It really means that we believe that the financial statements are fairly stated in all material respects, that all estimates are reasonable, that all disclosures are properly reflected in the financial statements, and that all accounting policies have been consistently applied. We can go on to the next slide, please. I'm not gonna spend a lot of time over those slides, but those are really summaries of some of the numbers in the financial statements. On this slide here is a summary of the city's assets over the last 3 years. As with most of our city audits, we see that cash and investments and capital assets are usually the two largest assets that the city has. And the numbers are fairly consistent year over year. We're seeing some increases in cash, some increases in capital assets, but that is expected results of operation. But other than that, there's really not a lot to comment on. If we can go on to the next slide. The next slide is the city's liabilities over the last 3 years. You would obviously see that your pension liability is the largest liability. It's been fairly consistent over the last 3 years. You also have OPEB liability, which is a retiree medical benefit, also fairly consistent over the last 3 years. This year there was an increase in compensated absences, which is vacation liability and sick leave liability. This is the result of implementing a new accounting standard in fiscal year 2025 that paved the way the city to capture those liabilities. So that's the reason for the slight increase there. If we can go on to the next slide. This slide here summarizes the city's equity, assets minus liabilities. The highlight of this slide is to show you that the equity is divided into 3 main categories. The first one, that largest category, net investment in capital assets, is unfortunately not in a spendable form and most likely never to count in a spendable form. This is how much the city invested in streets and roads and infrastructure and buildings and so on. The restricted amounts are amounts that have outside legal restrictions on them. So it can be unspent grant proceeds, it can be gas tax money, it can be basically funds that are legally restricted for a specific purpose. And then finally, the unrestricted amounts are the amounts under the council control that have no legal restriction on them. You can see how the numbers are changing over the years. The good news is that your unrestricted amounts continue to grow year over year, and that's what we would like to see. We go on to the next slide, please. On this slide here is looking at what we call the net cost of service, the tax revenues. The net cost of service is the cost of running all city departments minus any revenues that those departments bring in on their own. Those revenues can be either charges to users, it can be rents, it can be basically anything to offset the cost of those departments. The idea of this slide is to see whether tax revenues are sufficient to cover the cost of service. And as you can see over the last 3 years, tax revenues have been more than sufficient to cover the cost of service. So another good sign about the city's operating budget. If we go on to the next slide, please. So this slide here is focusing only on the general fund. Obviously, the general fund is where most of the unrestricted resources reside. So it's a measurement of the city's liquidity. On this slide here, we're looking at the unrestricted portion of the fund balance and comparing it to annual expenditures. The idea is to see in the very unlikely scenario that all revenue sources start coming in, how long can the city continue to pay bills just using existing fund balance? And we determined that the city can probably do that for about 9 months. That's a pretty good healthy fund balance, I would say. Definitely more than the average of our fund balance. Not the highest for sure, but more than the average we see in our fund. So that's regarding the general fund, and if you go on to the next slide, please. This slide is focusing on the city's largest liability, which is the pension liability. The purpose of this slide is to highlight to you that one of the most significant assumptions used to estimate the pension liability is what we call the discount rate. And that discount rate is really controlled by CalPERS. Wanted to give you an idea if that discount rate is either increased or decreased by 1%, higher liability. So currently your liability is around 11.7 million in 2025, and this number can fluctuate between 18 and 6 million, depending on the discount. So again, significant fluctuation, changes in that discount rate. And if you can go on to the next slide, please. Similar to pension, the retiree medical benefits is an estimated number, and the discount rate is one of the significant assumptions in estimating this number. So similar to disclosure, I wanted to show you what the number would look like with a 1% decrease or decrease. You can go on to the next slide, please. So the last part of my presentation are the required communication as the independent auditor. On this slide here is a summary of the responsibilities. The responsibility of our firm as the auditor versus me. We're responsible mostly to provide an opinion on the city's financial statements, whether they are fairly stated or not. We're also responsible for evaluating internal control over financial reporting. We're responsible for evaluating the city's compliance with laws and regulations that could have a material effect on the financials. We're responsible to ensure that the financial statements are clear and transparent, and then finally, we're responsible to communicate with the governing bodies. Management have a lot of responsibilities in this process, so management is ultimately responsible for the completeness and accuracy of the financial statements. I know that when sometimes the perception is because the numbers are audited, that management is no longer responsible, but our audit does not treat management as responsible. Our audit is on a test basis, provide only reasonable assurance, not absolute assurance. So just wanted to highlight that. Reasonable assurance is still considered to be a high degree of assurance, so it's just not absolute. Management is responsible to establish and maintain internal control over financial reporting, make all financial records available to us during the audit process, to establish internal control that will prevent and detect fraud, inform us of all known and suspected fraud, comply with laws and regulations, and take corrective action on any audit findings. If we can go on to the next slide. As far as our independence, it is solely our responsibility to maintain our independence. We evaluate any additional service that we offer the city and make sure that it does not impair our independence. For example, drafting the financial statements on behalf of the city can impair independence if no safeguards are put in place. One of the most important safeguards that we have is having an independent reviewer who's not involved in the audit review those financial statements prior to review. We follow the AICPA rules and California Board of Accountancy rules when it comes to independence. As far as timing of the audit was not performed within the time frame expected. As you probably know, the city had some catching up to do. So I think the city's in a good place. We finished 2024 and we started 2025 right away, and now we finished 2025. And basically the city is gonna get back on a regular schedule with the 2026 audit. So definitely, even though it's still not very timely this year, but big improvement, and definitely feel that the city is on the right track. As far as significant accounting policies and unusual transactions, there were no unusual transactions, but there were 2 new accounting standards that the city implemented during fiscal year 25. One of them I mentioned regarding compensated absences, the vacation and sick leave, the vacation and sick leave liability that the city implemented during the year. If we can go on to the next slide, please. So I'm pleased to say that we encountered no difficulties during our audit. We felt that management was very cooperative, was very responsive, and provided us good documentation. There were some adjustments during the audit, and management has posted all those adjustments. And I'm pleased to say that we had no material weaknesses identified in the controls. So in 2024, we had some findings, and in 2025, those findings have been removed. You can go on to the next slide, please. This is just a summary of all the new accounting standards that were issued in the year that they will be due to be implemented. We discussed with management as we get closer, how they're gonna impact the city and what the city needs to do to prepare for it. I think with that concludes my presentation. I want to say thank you for allowing me the opportunity, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
I really appreciate your presentation, and the careful time you took to do the audit. I'm also grateful for a mother who's learning how to go through cough drops. So I appreciate that. Well now, Stacy, do you have anything else to add?
I don't.
Okay, great. Do we have any speaker slips on this item?
Mayor Snow, I have no speaker slips for this item and no written communication has been received.
Okay, we'll close the public comment on this portion of the item. Next, we'll move to any questions or comments by our council members. I'll start with Councilmember Smith.
Thank you for the presentation. Going through the audit, that's it's an encouraging outlook, I think I'd say. I wanted to bring up that one of the things I saw in the audit is 8 of our top 25 tax-paying businesses in City of London Grove are service stations. So I just something to note. They make up quite a bit of them. And should California's EV mandate hold up in court, that might be something that our tax revenue will be reduced, and we may consider. Other cities have done like a 50 cent per hour rental of like charging spaces. So just something to throw out there, seeing that we have several gas stations in our top tax-paying businesses. And I also noted that I think it's 31.2% of our revenue is from grants, if I'm correct in that. And I would like to keep that up. I think that's encouraging for us to be bringing in grant money to do projects, and happy to see that come in. So it's a great presentation. I think it was encouraging to see where we're going, and just wanted to throw out those couple of things that maybe we can think about as we move forward.
Councilmember Altamirano.
Thank you for your presentation, Mr. Badawi. I'm speaking louder because, there's a recording going on right now, and I wanna make sure that people can hear us. You mentioned that there was some findings in fiscal year 2024, but those findings were removed in 2025. Can you share what those findings are and where we have improved?
I think they focused more on the city being ready for the audit. Like the closing, the preparation for the audit, the timeliness. That was the comment in 24. And we felt that that was significantly improved in 25.
Thank you.
Councilmember Mendoza.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, we need to compliment and thank Ms. Tang, who came on board, and that is why those, we don't have those findings. And in fact, I called, sorry, I think I need cough drops too. I talked to, Mr. Winnie earlier, and I said, where are the findings? And I don't see any findings and recommendations in this report, and he got back to me and said, well, that's because there aren't any, and it's a clean, report, so that is very good news for our city. We did have a few rough years because of employment, issues that came up, and anyway, yeah, I really appreciate the work that, Ms. Tank has been doing for us. You've just been a godsend, so thank you so much. months behind, so I appreciate you saying that, it's such an improvement over before, and she had a lot of catching up to do, so thank you so much for your report.
Mayor Pro Tem Peridia.
Thank you, Mr. Bonnelly? Okay, thank you. I appreciate you coming in. I'm really excited that we had a much better report this year than we had in the previous past couple of years. One of the things I noticed on our slides, and I'm sure it's just a typo, is in the prepaids and other assets, when you get to 2025, there's a dollar sign but no amount. It's on page 24, slide 24. Page
Yeah.
12.
Yeah, I mean, I don't recall exactly, but, I don't think it's, I mean, it used to be $6,000 a year before, so looks like it was a small item, and it's just on this year.
Okay, I just wanted to point it out so you can correct it for us, so we have the correct records. And then also, could you explain a little bit about what changed in the compensated absences? Because that's a pretty significant jump in price change.
Sure. So the new standard basically require governments to account for vacation and sick leave as employees are earning them, not when they're utilizing them. And also to estimate how many hours of sick leave earned would actually be utilized. In the past, governments or cities did not account for sick leave liability if it had no cash value upon termination. So that's the big change, is that even if it doesn't have a cash value upon termination, the city have to estimate how many hours we think the employees are gonna take as sick leave during their employment, and that should be recognized as a liability as it is being. Basically, it's a benefit that the employee earn, be able to call in sick and still get paid. That the cost of that benefit should be recognized in the year that the employee earned the benefit, not that the year the employee actually takes. So that was.
Appreciate that, thank you so much. And it does sound like you are stating also that we are back on time.
The plan is to be back on time.
As of today, we're on time.
As of today, you don't have an
I'm not,
audit.
yeah.
Has to.
Okay, let's keep it up here. That's all I have.
Thank you so much. I'd like to echo Councilmember Mendoza's appreciation to you and to our city staff, for really doing the yeoman's work to get this across the finish line. I also just wanted to highlight on, slide 27, where we talked about the government-wide financial statements. This is something that Lemon Grove can be really proud of. We are one of the few cities in the area that has no structural deficit. We are not having to slash services and resources, because we are living within our means. And, we have done all of the hard work it takes to live within our means. And so I really appreciate not just getting this report, but also the work that it takes to make sure that the budget meets our needs, the careful planning that we went into when we set the budget, we're going into a new budget season. But it is just refreshing not to have to be a mayor who's in charge of slashing people's jobs and taking away resources, so, good work. All right, well, thank you very much. Do I have any further comments or questions? Yes, I'll turn it over to the city manager.
Thank you. I also want to give kudos to our finance director, Stacy, and our finance staff. They've all worked very hard on this report, and so thank you, Stacy, for all the time you put into it. I also wanted to mention that the Governmental Finance Officers Association has an award that they give for the ACFR to cities who apply, and if they meet those requirements, which are pretty stringent requirements. And so we've applied for that award this year, and hopefully we'll receive a response shortly. And we'll have that award in hand. Do you know when we'll hear back, Stacy?
I don't have a time frame. Normally it takes them around 6 months or so.
So as soon as we hear back, we will notify council. Great job, Stacy.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Have a good evening.
made by Mayor Snow with the second by Councilmember Councilman Morano. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it.
Alright, next item is item number 4. This is an amendment to number 6 to the agreement with Rick Engineering. I'll call on Public Works Director Izzy Murguia to introduce the item. And as the finance team leads, let's give her a big hand. You can hold it if it comforts you.
All right, good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. The item before you this evening is a recommendation to approve amendment number 6 to the Rick Engineering Agreement for city engineering services and authorize 2 separate appropriation requests relating to the Sandag Housing Acceleration Grant that the city was awarded in 2025. PowerPoint. As you know, the city's engineering division has been augmented through contracted services since the 1990s. Since the early 2010s, the city has contracted for city engineering services and traffic engineering services to provide expertise and support staff and for a variety of engineering related services. I believe our last city engineer was the individual who now serves for the city of Coronado, but he left the city in the early 2010s, and that was our last city engineer. On February 19th, 2019, the City Council awarded an agreement to a Rick Engineering Company for city engineer, staff engineer, traffic consulting services, and on-call project management and design services with a not to exceed amount of $450,000 per year. Since 2021, the City Council has approved subsequent amendments extending the agreement and extending the agreement's annual not to exceed amount. I'm not going to read through the slide, but I give you some dates of the amendments every year, and there have been a couple of augmentations in the annual not to exceed amount. The current amendment ends the agreement on June 30th, 2026, and currently provides a current annual not to exceed amount of $800,000 per year. The requested amendment number 6 seeks to extend the agreement to June 30th, 2027, and increases the agreement's annual capacity from $800,000 to $1,531,000, which we'll discuss the reasoning and justification for that. Next slide. So as I mentioned earlier, on November 19th of last year, the city executed an agreement with Sandag to receive $300,000 in housing acceleration program funds to process a rezoning and expansion of the Downtown Village Pacific Plan. The grant requires the city to approve the Downtown Pacific Plan along with its related ordinance amendments before the end of the calendar year in order to keep grant funding or in order to have the city be reimbursed by Sandag. If it does not complete those deliverables, the city will not get reimbursed for that work. As such, staff is recommending an appropriation to fund work to be undertaken by Rick Engineering that staff's recommending to complete this work. So the first appropriation is $300,000, which reflects the grant that the city is receiving from Sandag. And that's to be budgeted in the fiscal year 25-26 Sundry Grants Division, or budget, excuse me. And that's where all the grants that the city receives is is budgeted, so we're requesting the appropriation on the revenue side and the expenditure to, undertake the work. In addition, staff's requesting an appropriation of $59,120 from the general fund unassigned fund balance to the fiscal year 25-26 community development budget, specifically the line item called professional services. And this consists of two allocations. The first one is $33,500, which is the city's match for the grant which is not obviously reimbursed by the grant. So those are the city funds that the city's putting up to complete the work. And then $25,620 staff is requesting an appropriation to undertake an SB 79 implementation analysis. SB 79 was signed last year, which establishes minimum zoning standards for housing developments located within transit or qualified transit stops, and so that work will complement the downtown village specific grant. But that work is not funded by the grant. Next slide. So this slide provides a detail of staff's current projects, or the current projects that we're working with engineering to complete, which is requiring the increase in the agreement's annual not to exceed capacity. So first off, if you recall, Measure T allocated funding for new storm drains, and in our work this year, one of the locations identified was North Avenue, and the proposal, the cost estimate to complete the design for that project is about $200,000. And this would complete final design, so that staff can come before Measure T committee or find alternate funding allocations to have that project constructed. And just for your reference, it's about $1 million to construct that project. The second project are additional storm drain improvements in the areas noted on the slide. So New Jersey Avenue and Roosevelt, Lincoln Street between Golden Avenue and Washington Street, and the last location is Burnell Avenue and Cypress. These were all locations that staff presented during the Measure T allocation process last year for this current fiscal year. And so, the remaining $100,000 would fund the design for one or all of these locations for various street improvements in these areas. The next project is our new sidewalks throughout the city. The project specifically funds design. You recall this in November of last year, staff presented a presentation to the council on our recommendations for sidewalks. We took council's feedback, and then from there we tasked with engineering to undertake a feasibility study to determine whether or not those sidewalks can be implemented in those areas, and if so, the engineering costs to do that would be about $150,000. So those projects are key Measure T projects, and we definitely want to utilize those Measure T funds to complete design. And the most effective and efficient way to do that is to have Rick Engineering perform the design work for that. The next two projects, which I previously mentioned in the last two slides, is the Downtown Village Specific Plan. And the estimate for that project is $255,880. Staff's recommending Rick Engineering to perform the work. Again, primarily due to the timeline that we have relating to the grants. Rick Engineering is most familiar with the Downtown Village Specific Plan, having worked on it in 2018 and again in 2005. For details, we do have staff from Rick Engineering who can talk more about that project, or I'll refer to Mr. Lee on that. And then lastly, the SB 79 implementation worth $25,620. So, cumulatively, the cost for design and completing that work is $1,531,500. which would go to increasing the annual, Rick Engineering's capacity, not to exceed capacity, for amendment number 6. Next slide. As noted in your agenda report, the recommendation this evening is appropriating $300,000 to the Sundry Grants Fund 08, for the downtown specific, village specific plan grant project. And then secondly, approving an appropriation of $59,120 from the general fund unassigned fund balance, to cover the work that is not covered by the grant. And then lastly, that all ties into, the request to approve amendment number 6 with Rick Engineering and increasing the annual not to exceed amount from $800,000 to $1,531,500 per year, and extending the contract to end June 30th of 2027. Next slide. There's a lot of moving parts to this request, but for council's alternatives, you can approve staff's recommendation or approve staff's recommendation with some funding adjustments. We can defer some of our Measure T projects to this next fiscal year, thereby bypassing or having those projects designed next fiscal year through another design firm or a mixture of the two. And similarly, obviously we received the grant, we want to utilize the grants, but we can also, give back the grant to Sandag as an option for council to consider. With that, that concludes staff's presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much for the presentation. I had a couple of questions back on, slide 70.
Can I turn the lights off so the meeting?
Sure.
Oh, she's supposed to.
Oh, just, slide 70. Oh, you were already there. Yeah, go back to the, yes, that's it. For the downtown village specific plan amendment, it says $255,880. And we have an agreement with Sandag for $300,000. How do those numbers work together?
Yeah, so the $255,000 is the proposal from Rick Engineering. And so that amount would, obviously go towards the contract's capacity. The $300,000, so the delta of, what is it, $45,000, could be utilized for other services through other consultants. It's still there, is budgeted, but it's not related, or it can be used outside of Rick Engineering's proposal.
Okay, appreciate that. But the full 800,000, or 300,000 we have included, AU staff is included in that recommendation, correct?
Correct.
All right. I'll, turn it to council to see if they have any questions. Council have any questions? But I want, before we do that, I'll open up public comment.
Mayor Snow, I have no speaker slips for this item, and I have no, written communications.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Smith, do you have any comments, questions?
No questions, but I did wonder if staff could, for the benefit of our audience, just go over not to exceed, how that's different from just a flat fee.
Definitely, thanks for the question. So, not to exceed amount, as it's described, it in essence means that, you have a contract amount for a certain limit and you can't exceed that certain limit. It doesn't guarantee payment for that amount. It just means that you can do work up to that amount. A flat fee or, a fixed fee contract would be if somebody proposed, to count widgets for $100, we'd have to pay them $100, whether or not it took them, 1 day or 50 days to do it.
Thank you. Yeah, just wanted to put it out there. We assume that the bids are accurate and that's what we'll pay, but if they don't spend that much money, we'll walk away in that model. So I wanted to make sure that people do that.
Yeah, as a follow-up on this slide, so for example, these are, you know, our contracted city engineer estimates for the work, but if for whatever reason, we're moving forward with storm drain designs for one location only and design, instead of that 100,000, it's 75,000, then, you know, we're saving that capacity, and not paying that amount, that, you know, extra 25,000.
Right, perfect, thanks.
All right, Councilmember, Alvarado?
With regards to the grant, the 300,000 grant, my understanding is that if we don't take advantage and we don't do the work or use it prior to the end of the fiscal year, which is June 30th, we have to give whatever is unused back. Is that correct?
My understanding is a calendar year, but I'll defer to Mr. Winnie, who's familiar with the grant requirements.
Thank you. So we actually reached out to Sandag because originally that was the performance deadline. But they issued us an extension through the end of the calendar year, so the end of December. So we have to get the work done by then.
Great.
Yeah.
And what is the likelihood that that would happen?
I mean, very likely.
Okay.
I'm not the project manager, or these two individuals here.
I will say that we would not be making the request right now if we didn't think that the timeline was reasonable. So we believe we can achieve it, and so does Ray Engineering, so we're gonna get on it just as soon as we get approval.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And would you be able to share with us what part of the downtown village specific plan will get designed? Is it the entire plan or just a certain part?
It would, if this would expand the downtown village specific plan, really quadrupling its size. And so it would go from all the way down to the western part of the city, Massachusetts and Broadway, and to the eastern part of the city.
To Kent.
To Kent, it's still stop there. And, so yeah, so it would greatly increase the size of the downtown plan versus what it currently is.
And now, this is only for design, correct?
This contract would pretty much take us up to adoption.
And my, other question is, out of the 300,000 for storm drains, was that amount part of the 750,000 that was already allocated to the storm drains from Measure T?
It is part of the 750,000, so, the 300 that you see on the board is included in the 750. We're not gonna get into construction, on any of these projects this year, so any unused funds will go back to Measure T, and then we'll make staff will make a request, next year, for construction money.
We did get an update from city manager on Measure T. And I did see that this one line item, there was a $300,000 reduction, leaving only $450 to be used. I just wanted to make sure that this was part of the $450 remaining that would be used. Great, thank you.
Councilmember Mendoza?
Yeah, I had a very similar question that the storm drain improvements, sidewalk design, those funds we aren't taking from general fund, they're coming from Measure T.
Correct, there are already allocated budgeted funds,
Okay.
projects through the Measure T fund.
Okay, and then I just did wanna mention that I had talked with Sandag staff who, about the grant, and their deadline is December. That's their deadline, not our deadline, that's their deadline. They're kinda hoping we get stuff into them before December. So that was what they expressed to me, like November, early November, that we get things
I
wrapped up.
think that they would really like that.
Yeah.
So we'll try our
I know,
best.
I'm just passing that on.
We'll try our best,
Uh,
and obviously we wanna get reimbursed for the time and effort we put into this.
Yeah, because
so-
once we give it to them, when, you know, they've got it, submit it to the state, so they need a little time to work with it too. But I did see that we're making submissions quarterly, so that, is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah, so that. Oh, and, one other thing, I have a copy of the, amended downtown village specific plan that we did not approve, the one we didn't approve. And, could we make sure that our other council members get a copy of it?
Sure.
Because I think it would help for them to know, you have, as a, yeah, as plan commissioner, you can probably handle it. Okay, thanks.
Mayor Pro Tem Heredia?
Yeah, I just wanna give a huge shout out to our interim city manager, Tony Winnie. He's done an excellent job at negotiating, setting the timeline on this, and that's super appreciative. Also, city staff for putting this presentation together and getting us, dialed in to get this done. I think this is really important. I'm super excited to see, the expansion of it all the way to Massachusetts. That's been a dream of mine for several years, because there's a bunch of meat and potatoes on that side, so, I like having it where like La Mesa's like, oh, the good side of the tracks, well, we need to be, having a good side of the tracks, and both sides of our tracks, so I would like to see, I'm excited to see what we come up with that. I don't have any questions, I'm glad that you asked them to please go over the, not to exceed amount and what that meant, so the public can understand it, and, put that on the record, thank you.
Do we need to, approve these individually, the staff recommendations, or can we approve them as a whole?
Do all three separately, please.
Okay. And one thing I wanted to share why I'm leaning towards adopting all three of these at this time. One is costs of everything are going up exponentially, and this, when we get stuff started and tackled, I think that the more economic it will be, in the future. So that's one of the reasons why I'm gonna approve these, because I think it's gonna save us money in the long run, to do it that way. I also, with some of those additional funds, I constantly hear, communication is an issue with reaching our people. And since this downtown plan really is like the core of our community, I would love to see some of that extra money that's there be spent either on surveys or direct mailers to people's homes, and soliciting their input and because I think we really, this is one of those things we do not want to move forward with without getting the maximum amount of communication and input. They're gonna, the mailers? I didn't see mailers on there.
I mean, that would be a task that could be supplemented, but the, community engagement aspect is a requirement as part of the project, but as part of the proposal as well.
There's one of my concerns, like, we've done community engagement in the past, and maybe 10 people show up. And so, I wanna do like what's most effective, and since we have the money to do direct mailers, quite frankly, I don't know how else to best reach people. We've tried social media, we're still missing a segment of the population. We tried surveys, and then everybody who didn't get a call for the surveys, like, well, I wasn't surveyed. So I think maybe getting direct mailers out, giving people the option with the QR code on those mailers, to provide their input, and then tell them when and where the meetings are gonna be, so that there's no excuse to not know. That's my vision for what community engagement would look like, but I know that that's probably not what was anticipated. I saw that it was a component, but I don't think that's, that level of what was anticipated, which is why I'm saying that we should use additional money for that.
And the additional capacity, and I don't wanna speak to the project managers, but if it is an eligible reimbursement opportunity, that additional $45,000.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
motion was made by Mayor Snow with a second by Mayor Pro Tem Heredia to approve appropriation of $300,000 to the Sunday Grants Fund 08 for the downtown Village specific plan grant project. What's on the record, Councilmember Mendoza.
Aye.
Councilmember Alvarado.
Aye.
Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Heredia.
Aye.
Mayor Snow.
Aye.
Mayor Snow, the motion carries unanimously.
Could I have one thing I've never given this one here? When we do the survey, can we meet with our husbands?
And you know.
Next, I'll move to approve appropriating $59,120 from the general fund unassigned fund balance to the fiscal year 2025-2026 community development budget line item, professional services 01-40-08-6200. Do I have a second?
Moved by Mayor Snow with a second by Councilmember Smith to approve the appropriation of $59,120 from the general fund unassigned fund balance to the fiscal year 2025-26 community development budget line item professional services 01-40-08-6200. I'll now conduct the roll to call the record. Councilmember Alvarado.
Aye.
Councilmember Mendoza.
Aye.
Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Heredia.
Aye.
Mayor Snow.
Aye.
The motion carries unanimously.
I move to approve amendment number 6 to the agreement 2019-17 with Rick Engineering Company, increasing the agreement's annual not to exceed amount from $800,000 to $1,531,500 and authorize the city manager to execute any necessary documents. Do I have a second?
The motion was made by Mayor Snow with a second by Councilmember Alvarado to approve amendment number 6 to the agreement 2019-17 with Rick Engineering Company, increasing the agreement's annual not to exceed amount from $800,000 to $1,531,500 and authorize the city manager to execute any necessary documents. I'm not going to the roll to go on the record. Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Mendoza.
Aye.
Councilmember Alvarado.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Heredia.
Aye.
Mayor Snow.
Aye.
The motion carries unanimously.
Next, we'll move to item number 5. This is amending the urgency ordinance 472 to repeal the 120-day notice of termination of tenancy requirement. I'll introduce the current city manager, Tony Winnie, and city attorney, Kristen Steinke, to present the staff report.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This evening, we will be considering an amendment to the existing urgency ordinance regarding tenant protection, which was adopted on February 3rd by the council. It's entitled ordinance number 472. So if you recall, there were two primary components to that urgency ordinance which was adopted. One of which was to give tenants who were subjects of no-fault tenancies 120 days before termination. Those notices are in addition to existing state law, which requires 60 or 90-day notices depending upon the nature of the tenancy. The second primary component of that urgency ordinance were enhanced relocation payments for, again, no-fault termination of tenancy. After adoption of the urgency ordinance, upon further research, it came to the attention of city attorney and staff that there is a risk to the notifications of 120 days. So that component, we are recommending to council tonight that that component of the urgency ordinance be amended and removed. And then the existing second component of enhanced relocation payments would remain as part of the urgency ordinance until its expiration or amendment. You can see, on this slide, there's a strikeout, and that is the language that would be removed in the proposed amendment. So if council chooses to adopt the amendment tonight, I also wanted to point out we have 2 upcoming tenant protection ordinance workshops scheduled, which members of the public and stakeholder groups are all invited to attend. The first one is scheduled for March 24th at 6 p.m. here in the Community Center. And then the second workshop will be scheduled for April 9th, again here at 6 p.m. in the Community Center. That completes the presentation, and the staff and the city attorney are available for any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Do we have any public comment on this item?
Mayor Snell had no speaker slips for this matter, and no written communications have been received for item number 3.
I would move at this time that we receive the staff report and adopt the proposed amendment to the urgency ordinance 472 to repeal that portion of the ordinance that requires notice of termination of tenancy at least 120 days before termination is effective. Do council have any comments, questions?
At this moment, because there is so much confusion out there about how this ordinance affects, landlords, I would like to add, that this, requirement of additional payments for relocation only applies to properties that own 15 units or more.
Councilmember Smith, do you have any comments or questions? Okay, Councilmember Mendoza, do you have any comments, questions?
Sorry, Gabby. Well, I have a question. How does that change the current state
From what I understand,
of this, like, sorry,
so the way that I understand the substitute motion is that you're still striking the 120-day termination noticing procedures. But the enhanced relocation assistance that was adopted with the urgency ordinance, your proposal is that that would only apply to properties that have 15 units for rental available or more. So that's the change.
but what is it now?
The current urgency ordinance requires enhanced relocation payments. And those, I'm sorry, I don't have a slide that reflects that, it's in the staff report, the specific language regarding the enhanced relocation payments. Councilmember Altamirano is suggesting that those relocation payments stay as they are, except that they only apply to properties that have 15 units or more, and am I saying that correctly?
I don't have the state law in front of me, so my
That's
question.
not, she's only talking about.
But isn't that
No,
already,
she's
isn't that already covered in the state law? No.
So she's,
That's my question.
yes, so what I'm understanding, Councilmember Mendoza is asking, what are the current exemptions, and how does this impact the current exemptions that are already listed under the state law? Councilmember Heredia, or not, sorry. Councilmember Altamirano, has made a statement without support that this impacts moms and pops. And so she's trying to change the state law on exemptions with this amendment. That's what I'm understanding is trying to happen right now.
That's not correct. So if I may clarify, the additional, the urgent ordinance that we have, the enhanced ordinance that the city of Denver adopted on February 3rd applies to, everyone, except, and I see Mayor Stone shaking her head in disagreement with me, and there is, some confusion, there's no clarity as to whether it affects homes that are held in a family trust or revocable or irrevocable, but that, we're not here to discuss that right now. In order to protect smaller mom and pop, businesses and landlords, business and how it's gonna affect them, and so if, I don't believe that I have the support to reverse the entire ordinance. If we are going to pass a new ordinance or just remove the 120 and keep the enhanced relocation fees, I'm asking that it only applies to larger property or the larger landlords or corporations, so that smaller businesses or mom and pop businesses can be protected from this.
And my question is, I think that state law already allows that. But I'm not sure because I don't have it in front of me.
It does not specify 15 units or more, it only specifies, that there's some exemptions, but it does not exempt 15 or properties that are owned under 15, that have 15 units or less, that's not specifically there.
That is not called out in state law, I agree with her. However, I'm not entirely prepared to talk about what the exemptions are. under the
Right,
Income
right.
Protection
And
Ordinance,
so
so
I'm
if you
fine
wanna
with
have a
that.
robust conversation about that, I would ask the council to bring it back another day.
Yeah, I'd like more information, now we're doing the same thing that we did before.
We can, if we can look into that and bring it back, I would like that.
You have a motion that is a substitute motion. You have not received a second. Is there a second? Can we do that now? We can continue to have discussion about the substitute motion if that, if
I
there
will
is
second
support.
the first motion.
Okay, so we have the motion to remove the 120-day, termination of tenancy notices with a second. Is there a second for the substitute motion? Okay, I see no second, so the substitute motion fails. So we can, is there any further discussion on the first motion?
One question, actually. I did notice that, the verbiage on the proposed, urgency, where it says bring ordinance in conformance with state law for notification requirements, 60-day notice or 90-day notice for low-income assistant recipients. The low-income is staying? Where is that leaving?
That particular provision, that's in the state law.
Oh,
So we
income
are,
is already identified.
we are adopting, the recommendation is that you adopt, make only one change to the urgency ordinance.
Okay.
Which is to remove
The
the
100.
noticing procedure, the 120-day noticing procedure.
Okay, I just
And
know we
state
added
law-
low income into the other part, so I wanna make sure we're.
No, and state law will cover the noticing procedures, once you repeal that portion of the urgency ordinance.
Thank you for clarifying. Okay.
And I'll just briefly, we have the two workshops that are coming up on March 24th and April 9th. It's really critical if you are a tenant or a landlord or thinking about being a tenant or thinking about being a landlord in your future, that you attend this meeting. Obviously, like, there is a lot of misunderstanding about even what the balance of the current state law is. And this is an opportunity to learn, that we'll have speakers and presenters, staff is doing a workup of this. To make sure that the community and the council understands what the current status of the state law is, and what, options we have for changing, and then getting input from the community on what they, and the stakeholders on what they would want, that, tenant protection ordinance in Lemon Grove would look like. So just highly encouraging attendance at these meetings, and then council members, like, our city attorney is available for any questions and follow-up, and, I know I've talked to Kristen, and she's made available housing experts within her firm, if you need a deeper dive into the actual law. So, I really encourage that.
I encourage you to reach out to us as well, if you have specific items that you would like to see included in this workshop. You want extra, one-on-one time with me or with the city manager, just let us know, and we're happy to do that.
Alright.
At this moment, can I change my substitute motion to, request for staff to bring it back once you do your research, so that we can take a vote on it at a later time?
Well, in order to do that, based on our rules, I think you only need the support of based on the 15-day, or
A 15 unit.
15 unit.
Ownership, yes.
Okay.
Alright, can we take a vote on the original motion then?
Yes, the motion was made by Mayor Snow with a second by Councilmember Mendoza to approve staff's recommendation. I now conduct the roll call on the record. Councilmember Altamirano,
No.
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Mendoza,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Heredia,
Aye.
Snow.
Aye.
Motion carries on a vote of 4-1.
Alright, thank you so much.
Can I add something?
Yes.
Regarding the specific question, we'll be covering a lot of that in the workshops, but would you still like it to come back for a vote to amend the urgency ordinance?
I would, once you have information, that would be great.
Okay, cause it'll help, I think it will help quite a bit once we do the workshop and explain the exemptions. So we'll, move through the current state law, initially, so that people have an understanding of where we currently exist. So I just wanted to clarify that. Do you still want to bring it back, or do you want to wait for the workshop?
I would wanna bring it back, and just for the record, I, have contacted, the city attorney and have, gotten some clarification as far as what the exceptions are, so my understanding is different from the mayor. I just wanted to put that out there. So it is very important that we are educated as to what is covered and what isn't covered, and looking at the possibility of having those exceptions just to protect those, smaller businesses and smaller mom.
I think it will help a lot to have those conversations in a setting where everybody is hearing the same conversation, so let's have that at the workshop. Okay?
So are we talking about the exemptions, or are we talking about the 15 units?
The exemptions are part of the conversation, so if 15 units are not included, then, we can cover that as well, and whatever questions that come up.
My request is that we do the research and bring it back for
Yes.
us.
Oh, okay, so you do want it to come back?
I do.
To the city council?
And then we can cover exceptions and just clear that at that time. At the time of the workshop.
And we have a workshop next Tuesday.
I see.
There won't be
Or the next meeting.
there is no voting at the workshop, this is just an opportunity to understand what the law provides.
We could discuss it next Tuesday.
And, and I would,
2 weeks from now, right? We can bring it back once it's discussed at the workshop, and then we can bring it back.
I think
We
that,
can agendize it.
yeah, I think right now we have a very packed calendar. We have the March 24th, our next meeting isn't until April 7th. Then we're gonna have another workshop on April 9th. We just had to push off an appeal on an already busy April 7th. And so I think time-wise, it makes sense to address this after we've heard the workshops and had the discussions and everybody's got more information. Then try and rush this and get it in, by the April 7th. And again, we don't wanna be here until 11 o'clock at night. I think that the urgency ordinance takes care of what it needs to take care of. And so I don't think that there's even room in the agenda right now on April 7th, so we would have the 2 workshops anyway.
And I respect your opinion and your comments, however, I would like to bring it back on April 7th.
Okay, I hear you, and you have support. You need support of one. of
Yeah,
them.
I would agree if we could bring it back on the 21st, but not on the 7th. Then we'll have the knowledge from both workshops.
Are they both gonna be the same?
The workshops,
So
presentation.
we don't know what the second workshop's gonna look like, because what we wanted to do is see who shows up at the first workshop, so we are speaking to the audience. But, the first workshop will cover, overview of state law, we'll cover our urgency ordinance as it stands. We'll talk about, the different areas of law that the public could potentially weigh in on, and then also receive feedback from the public on the issue as well. So that's what we'll cover in the first workshop.
And we don't know if the content of the second workshop will be different.
No, not yet.
And remember, they just asked us for input on what they want us to include in those workshops, so please provide your comments on what you would like to add included in those workshops.
Okay, then I will, since I don't have the support, I will go ahead and, request that it get moved and brought back on the 24th. And discussion on the exemptions and the types of real estate trusts that are, exempt and that must abide by the state laws. The possibility of adding the 15 unit minimum. And then also, resources that the city currently has and, additional resources that enforcing this policy will take, and if we can even enforce it.
Okay, so all of that contained is what you want brought back on the 21st? Or is that just what you wanna see in the workshop?
Both, so what we wanna see
Okay.
in the workshop, and then a summary so that people that are not able to make it to the workshop, that it can be on the record at our next meeting, on the 22nd, on the 21st of April.
Do you need a second?
Do you have support for that?
We're just expanding the number of meetings and requirements. I'd rather have one clear meeting where we're talking about the new proposed tenant protection ordinance, rather than like doing a bunch of mishmash on the urgency ordinance. And so, I think she has support for, the urgency ordinance and limiting it to the discussion on the 15 units. But expanding it beyond that, I think is gonna be just duplicative work and, confuse everybody on what we're trying to accomplish. And so I would encourage it to be limited to just that, and then have a full discussion on the actual tenant protection ordinance, instead of wrangling with this urgency ordinance.
For clarification, the only thing that I would like to add is the 15 unit minimum, but I would like that information to come back so that we can share with the public on the record, public that's not able to make it at the workshop.
Just the 15.
Okay, we have the support of two, so we have a motion and a second on the, repeal of the, noticing period of 120 days.
You already called the roll.
Oh, did you already call the roll? Or did it pass?
Yes, and it passed.
Oh,
Yeah, 4-1.
sorry about that.
No worries.
I distracted.
All right, wonderful. Now we'll, move on to council reports on meetings attended at the expense of the city. For the meetings, that were prior to the last meeting, we've asked council members of the last, meeting to, provide a written list of those meetings to our city clerk. And just do it from the last meeting to now. And then we also had talked about, if you wanna focus on something in particular, you could also include all your meetings to the city clerk, for this current period, and if you just wanna provide an update on just one of the meetings that you attended that you feel like you wanna talk about, to try and limit it, to a reasonable amount of time. All right, Councilmember Smith?
The meeting I attended was the MKS meeting on February 19th. We went over the
Mayor, what's up?
I didn't write mine now like I normally do, so bear with me. I did go to, I attended a Zoom with, Councilman Member Altamirano on, March second with the California Consulting Grant Writing Team. And they gave us some really great ideas on how we could bring more grant, opportunities into the city, for all sorts of different goodies. We also did meet with Jordan Barker, back in February from Von Roach Lighting Alternatives, I believe. Solar lighting, that we're going through for the, Connect Main Street project. Stay tuned, we're gonna have some nice solar lights out there, we're excited to see kind of what we have coming and, much needed lighting in that area. Yes, we need that. I had the really cool opportunity to go to Meals on Wheels, on March third, and do kind of like a ride along with them and see what their community, what they do in the community here. We got some great ideas, on how they could help service our senior center, with some programming and some lunches and things of that nature. I also did, attend the Cal Cities in-person meeting, and I won't go over that any more than I already did. And then one other thing was, I have attended several Helix water, meetings, cause there's one every week except for the third week, I think, of the month. So I attend those very regularly, and I'm going through their budget workshops and stuff like that. So I'll keep you informed as more information comes on their budget.
So I got to do, Meals on Wheels with Lieutenant Fox. And I got to meet a gentleman who is a slice of Lemon Grove history. If you've ever wondered about who painted those lips on that rock, I got to knock into the door of Stephen Rivera, who as an 18-year-old, and now he's a senior citizen receiving Meals on Wheels, he was the delinquent who started that. So it was really, he told me the whole story, it was really great. I'm gonna stick the Historical Society on him. But it was really fun, a really fun day, and an opportunity to serve our community. It was great to see what Meals on Wheels does. Then, later that night, I did attend a Historical Society meeting, and there they featured, Miss Clappy. And it was an incredible event, just a wonderful night, and it basically the who's who's of who started Lemon Grove, and they are incredible storytellers. On March 6th, I attended the Sandad Board of Directors meeting. On March 7th, I attended Lemon Grove Little League's opening day, and there is a new cool article out about Yahaira Preciado and her husband Anibel, who are basically the Preciado family is basically part of the heart and soul of our Lemon Grove Little League community. It's an incredible article, and the Little League kickoff was absolutely delightful. Probably well over 500 people out there. It was so much fun. I also that same day went to a fancy / detour event, a leadership program that supports young women in our communities. And it was lots of resources, lots of opportunities, and to see what those girls can accomplish are incredible. On March 9th, I spoke with Supervisor Aguirre regarding the county's proposed consumer fairness and CFP. So it's basically their consumer financial program that they're gonna try and launch that Supervisor Tara Lawson Reamer has proposed. It's county council will be going after people who take advantage of our seniors, take advantage of our veterans, everything from egregious price fixing practices and the rent control industry to Tijuana companies that are polluting the Tijuana River. It's an organization that will enforce laws that help average everyday citizens and residents in our community. So I'm really excited about this endeavor. On March 9th, I also attended an uncounted workshop. It's a workshop that focuses on making sure that deaths in our county jails are accounted for, and that people who lose their lives while they're in custody are properly counted. It was sponsored by the Racial Justice Coalition and this group called Uncounted. On March 11th, I met with the representative, Rob Howard from the California Energy Alliance. It was after our League of Cities event, and I had lots of questions still, and so he was kind enough to listen to me, but I also also was extremely sick, and so I need to agree to that meeting because I have an immense amount of brain fog and still have more questions. And then on March 12th, I attended the San Diego Senior Community Foundation meeting with our city manager. We're trying to get resources and opportunities for our seniors in our community. So we worked with Paul Downey in the past when he was with Serving Seniors. They had provided services to our community here in Lemon Grove previously, and now he's in a different capacity as a consultant working for this group that's really looking for a place to house a really cool hub for seniors. They're looking for about 15,000 square feet. So if anybody knows a good spot, we'd love to host them here in Lemon Grove. And then this morning, I was able to attend the East County Chamber of Commerce's Government Affairs Committee. And we learned about some of the new laws that are coming on. They have a couple bills focused on making it easier for businesses to function without quite as much regulations. And where they can pass regulations, some safeguards to make sure that those regulations won't unduly impact small businesses. So it was a really interesting meeting. And that's it. All right. Now I'll turn the time over to our city manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor. We have a couple of exciting events coming up that the community is invited to participate in. One is our Coffee with the Community event, which is going to be held at Lemon Grove Coffee from 9 to 10 a.m. on March 24th. So our very own Lieutenant Fox is going to be there. So if you have questions for the Sheriff's Department and his team, he'll be there to answer all your questions and probably buy you a coffee, right? And then we've got two additional events that are coming up. One is our bulky item e-waste drop-off event. So that's going to be held on March 28th over here at Dragonza Park from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. So you'll be able to drop off not only bulky items, but also e-waste. So that's electronic waste. And then on the same day, but at a different location, we're going to have a household hazardous waste disposal event over in La Mesa in partnership with EDCO at their transfer station at 8184 Commercial Street. So that's going to be held on the same day. So we have information available on our social media and our city website if you're interested in additional details in terms of what you can bring and what you can drop off. Thanks.
What is the extravaganza? Okay. We also have coming up the extravaganza, so we'll have your calendars marked for that as well. All right, now we'll move into closed session. I'll turn the time over to Kristen Stanky.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. You are in the closed session for two closed session items. The first is the performance evaluation of the city attorney under Government Code Section 54957. The second is anticipated litigation under Government Code Section 54956.9D4 for one case. And I will be recusing myself from both of these items. Thank you.
Yeah, share your piece, and hopefully tell you what to say, that's all.